video.
Good morning. Welcome to the Quilter's Nook. It's Tuesday, and it is our first episode of Focus on Fundamentals. So I hope you're excited and ready to learn some new things, or maybe just a refresher on some things that you may have missed. So today we're going to focus on getting a good 1/4 inch seam. And let's see, what I'm going to tell you is what I do. There's a ton of different ways to get a good 1/4 inch seam, but this is what I do. So when I start out and set up my machine, I always use a foot that's going to cover my feed dogs, okay? And the reason for that is if your fabric is running through your machine and both the feed dogs are hitting that fabric, it's going to run through smoothly. If your foot only covers 1/2 of the feed dogs, it's like running with your tires in the mud, okay? You're not going to get a good, your fabric isn't going to go through nicely. Okay?
Joyce said good morning.
Good morning. How are you today, Joyce? So I like to have my feed dogs covered by my foot, okay? So that may take some getting into your foot box that you have and finding the right foot that will work for you, but that's what I do. You can always come in and ask questions and I can demonstrate more how that's going to work, okay? And I also sew with the fabric right against the edge of my foot, okay? It's just an easy eyeball for me. I can just keep an eye on the edge of that presser foot and know that things are going to go through smoothly. So that's what I do, okay? Now, to get a good 1/4 inch seam, most people will tell you that you have to sew a seam and measure that seam. If that seam measures a 1/4 inch, you're good to go, sew away. Not necessarily true, okay? Yes, it's important that that's a good 1/4 inch, but what's more important is the finished product. Just because you sew a 1/4 inch doesn't mean that your unit is going to come out the right size, okay? So what I do is I take 3 pieces of fabric, 1.5 by 3.5, and I sew them together with what I consider a good 1/4 inch, okay? Whether that's with your 1/4 inch foot, or if you have a guide on a foot, however you do it, okay? But it's your 1/4 inch. So you're going to sew these 3 pieces together and you're going to press them all to one side. Linda, can you grab me that small ruler, please? That little guy right there, the little one. Thank you. So when I sew this together and press it, not iron it, press it. And you want to make sure that you don't have any tucks or puckers in your pressing, okay? Then you're going to measure it. So if you want to come down here, my piece I didn't cut it exactly 3.5 inches high. Let me turn it around this way so you can see. But, okay, it's 3.5 inches from edge to edge. And most importantly, your center seam, your center strip is exactly 1 inch. Your 1 inch marks are exact. That is what is important, okay? You want to get a good finished product. If your finished product is not exactly right, then it's time to do some adjustments. What I would do is check your pressing, okay? Double check, make sure everything is pressed nicely, you don't have any puckers or any tucks, okay? And measure again. Maybe that's the problem, okay? If that's still not the problem, then it's your seam allowance, okay? One thing that affects your seam allowance is turn of the cloth. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that concept before, but when you sew 2 pieces of fabric together, you've got thread, and when you press that turn of the cloth, that fabric has to go across the top of that thread, okay? That takes up space, okay? If you're sewing 2 flannel pieces together and you expect it to turn out, or three flannel pieces together, and you expect it to come out at exactly 3.5 inches, it's going to be short because that flannel is thicker and it takes up more space in that seam allowance. Okay, so you have to adjust your seam allowance accordingly. But for today, we're just going to concentrate on cotton fabric. Another thing that affects it is the weight of your thread, the brand of your thread. Everything comes into play. So you want to make sure that you test with what you're going to be working with. Okay, if you're going to be working with cotton and a 50 weight thread, top and bottom, then that's what you do your sample on. Okay, so let me show you this turn of the cloth so you can kind of get a better idea maybe of how that's going to work. I don't know if we can. Let me see that. See how that fabric rolls over? That takes up space. That's considered the turn of the cloth. Okay. So that is one consideration. Let's see, make sure I don't forget to tell you anything. Okay, a way to alter your seam allowance is to move your needle position. And this may take several tries depending on what foot you're using, how your machine works. But you can always bump your needle, a click or two to the right and try sewing that seam again. Okay. Again, the object is not for this to be a 1/4 inch. The object is for this to be the right size. Okay. So we just have to play. My machine at home, I have to take it clear to a 6.2, clicking it over to get my good 1/4 inch when I have my foot on that covers my feed dogs. So it's a wider foot, so I have to go further over to get my good 1/4 inch. Yours may just be a click. Yours may be perfect, but we have to try. Once you find out your perfect 1/4 inch, take a piece of tape or a sticky note or something and write down the needle position on your machine and what thread you're using, that it's cotton fabric. Give yourself some notes so that you know the next time you turn on your machine and you have this certain foot on, oh, I need to click it to this position to get my good 1/4 inch. Okay, I do that on my machine and it works perfectly every time. If I change fabrics or if I change thread, I'm going to retest because each thread has a different weight, even though it may all say 50. They're going to be just a little different, and you want to make sure that you get the perfect seam there. I hope that made sense. So you always want to test. You cannot test too much, okay? But always keep notes on what happens. I think that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy for you to come in. We can walk through your machine, do some testing if you want to. But just keep that in mind. It's a good practice to get into because the more you have accurate units, the more accurate your quilts are going to be, and you're going to be happier with the end results. Okay. So if you have any suggestions on further episodes on Focus on Fundamentals, please put them in the comments below. Give me a call, send me an email. This video series is for you. I want you to know what you want to know. So if you have any questions, let me know. And until next Tuesday at 8:30, have a fabulous day.